Welcome back to the Tom and D podcast. My name's Tom. That is D. And what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot, man. I love seeing that bass in the background. By the way, I didn't know that you played bass, or is that just a prop?
Well, the bass is really the top four strings of a regular guitar, which I play. So
Sure, as do I.
I mean, Paul McCartney switched from guitar to bass. So, I don't play it regularly, but, when I'm recording and I need a bass line, and I played bass in some of the albums that I put together and stuff, but I mean, I'm not a virtuoso.
No, I know that. So really, it's just a prop for the chicks. That's what.
Yeah, for the chicks and the Beatle bass. If you know, you know.
Tom and D.
Two middle-aged idiots.
Yeah, I got to come over and jam. If I'm in town, maybe
you're in town right now. Why aren't we jamming?
Well, I know, but if I'm in town this weekend, maybe I can come over. We can watch the Indiana game and play a little bass.
There you go. That sounds like a plan. And of course, on Sundays, it's all the Detroit Lions. And I'm.
What is that shirt?
Well, this is their old logo. They don't have it anymore. They have, just the regular lion, but this lion doesn't look quite as fierce. He looks like a puma or something. But then, we haven't won a championship since the 50s. So, we're still celebrating. There's an old joke that they say, I want the Lions to be the pallbearers at my funeral so they can let me down one last time.
That's a good one.
I like that one, too.
Yeah.
So who's our guest? What's going on, man?
Okay. I'm glad you just dove right into it because I love this guy. I've known him for a long, long time. I don't see him often enough now. We used to just be in the trenches together all the time, but it has been more than a minute. He's gone on to bigger and better things, man. He's doing like some really, really cool shit. But I got to say, I knew him first as probably the best photographer that I've ever worked with in my life. And then when I found out that he could do the video work that he does too, with these incredible time lapses and just incredible video work all the way around, just like, oh my God, this guy is so good. And then before there are these DJI drones that every 5-year-old now has,
right?
This guy was like making his own and probably still is, and just the types of drones too for different purposes. It's just so fucking cool. And again, like he is at the forefront of everything and master of everything too. There's nothing that he starts out to do that he just doesn't become a master at. Without further ado, Will Strathmann, welcome to the show.
Hey guys.
Hey,
there you are.
What an intro, man.
Darren, you are far too kind and far too generous with your words.
The master of everything, man. And I like your background.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's cool. I like the brick wall. I like the, did you take those pictures?
I did.
They're beautiful. Now, when he mentioned the drone work, I thought for sure you would have a drone, during the interview. So it'd just be like you from above and then coming down and then just kind of sweeping through this whole interview.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to hear anything. It would be far too loud.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Probably make people nauseous. So we'll keep it
How
normal.
many drones do you have?
Too many.
Like literally like 10?
Literally like maybe double or probably like somewhere over 20.
Really? And these aren't the little cheap ones that Darren was speaking of that every 5-year-old in the park has.
Some of them are. Some of them definitely. I mean, like those I use to crash into things.
Oh,
practice,
right.
Crash cam. No, but it's a whole range. So it's everything. Like I got my start flying DJI drones because way back when that was what you used. And I think my first one was a Phantom 2 Pro in 2015. And then various ones over the years, and then started flying FPV, started building my own FPV drones.
Oh, so you build these things.
And just for the audience, describe what FPV drones are.
Yeah, so FPV stands for first person view. If you've ever seen those Instagram reels or TikToks where the drone's flying around mountains or down buildings or close proximity, and then you've got a guy who's wearing these goggles. that's FPV. So basically what it does is it puts a camera on the front of the drone that then is projected on those essentially VR goggles. And then while you're flying, you're essentially in the drone, seeing everything, super locked in, able to react very quickly, able to kind of put all the like distractions aside and just essentially be the drone.
So you're on the ground wearing these goggles, and then you see exactly what the drone's doing. So if you see a tree coming, you can go up and over the tree real easily.
Exactly.
Not just looking at a little screen on your, on your joysticks.
Yeah, with the glare and everything.
Right.
You're not just looking at that. It's like you're in it. So the point where like when I'm flying, I'm either sitting or standing, and like if somebody comes up and is talking to me or at me, I'm just like, wait, what? Because I'm like,
you're up in the air.
Yeah,
you're flying over the mountain.
There's been some times where I've been with Will where I've had to, where he's been like standing in the middle of, like a sidewalk or a field or something. And I've had to like lean against him so he could kind of like feel what, level is, or, so he wouldn't fall over because, the drone's like all tilted to the side or doing flips or whatever. And, so his body, I could see him like turning with it and like, no, don't fall over, dude.
It takes some getting used to. Like when I first started, I got weird vertigo when I first put the goggles on. Obviously, over many, many hours, you get used to it.
It's kind of like progressive glasses, and the first time you put them on, you're like, dude, I'm going to have to wear these every day. It's like, whoa, dude.
And your brain starts to click and it's like, oh, actually, it's
exactly.
Better. Yeah. The worst case of that was I was filming a friend of mine who's a wild ice skater. So she goes out and finds natural lakes and wild ice in Colorado, and then like early in the season before it snows on all the ice, goes and skates them. And I had the bright idea of being on ice skates while I was doing that, and then thought that I just wouldn't start moving, and all of a sudden I just start creeping forward at like 1 mile per hour, and then in my head I'm like, wait, might be moving, but the drone's moving. Long story short, both the drone and I ended up on the ice.
So, at least you can go through the ice.
Yeah. I have a question because, I'm afraid of heights.
Yep.
And I cannot even watch a TV show or a movie where there's a seat. Now, real up high in the airplane, I'm fine with like, I could probably skydive and not be freaked out. But I'm talking about like on the edge of a building or something like that. I mean, there was this one movie, was called Aeronauts, and it was with Eddie Redmayne about these balloons, and I'm like, I belong to Screen Actors Guild. I was on the nominating committee, so I'm like watching these, these movies, and I start to watch it, and as soon as the balloon got up about 20 feet, dude, I'm like, I can't watch this. I was really feeling uncomfortable. Do you feel that with those goggles on, like actually, like that you're on the edge of that building, or you're...
Surprisingly, not really at all. And so I don't love heights either. I used to like love rock climbing and doing everything, didn't have any problems. And then I turned 30 and like some switch flipped and I can't go near cliffs or anything anymore. But when I have the goggles on, it just like, it's something different. Feels kind of like you're a bird. And I think it's a control thing. Like when you're standing on the edge or like up in a balloon, like a hot air balloon or something, I feel like there's that like, what if I fall?
Right.
And then you can't do anything. So I think that for me is what kind of trips my brain out with heights. But when you're flying, you are in full control and you're locked in and you're like the one controlling it. So there's something about that, the height aspect of being hundreds of feet or thousands of feet up in the air, especially with the goggles on, that it just like doesn't do it at all.
Wow. Well, I should try it.
I never thought about that, but like, yeah.
Cool. Bring it over later today, man. We'll go flying around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of your stuff that you've done lately. Like I know you've done some really cool concerts, sporting events, and all sorts of really cool shit. I'd love to hear about some of those things and kind of like what sets you apart from the typical drone op. And I'm not talking about just the 10-year-olds, that are out.
Of course. Even people like Darren.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, we both started, Darren and I, on construction sites flying drones and taking time lapses and stuff. So Darren, there's still time to get into FPV and do it all.
Oh, I have the Avata.
There you go. That's what I recommend to people if they're getting into FPV, to get the Avata.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so as far as some of the stuff I'm doing recently, it's been back when Darren and I were working together, both living in Colorado. I moved to New York 3 years ago, mostly because my wife was on a show out here and we were doing long distance and wanted to close the gap. But moving to New York, it kind of exposed me to a different tier of production work than is in Colorado most of the time, and kind of just hit the ground running and networked and reached out to people and used kind of my previous skill set of flying drones and making a name for myself kind of in the action sport industry in Colorado, and transitioning that to New York, and been able to be on some really unique, cool projects. I've flown inside of Madison Square Garden for NBA and NHL playoffs. Recently was on a shoot with another aerial company in New York, flying for Jordan, where they did a 3,000 drone light show over the East River.
Nice.
Shut the East River down, which is crazy and cool to be a part of, to see the police boats come in at 9 p.m. and basically escort everything out. And then 10 minutes to go up and fly and film this really cool, unique thing. Started to get my foot in the door, getting on some like TV and film sets with some production companies out here flying. But yeah, New York's been good to us. Ironically, we might actually be moving back to Colorado very soon.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
And trying to split our time between New York and Colorado.
So in other words, you'll be bi-coastal if you consider the Platte River one of the coasts.
Oh yeah, if you consider that one of the coasts, then yeah, exactly. You can say that.
Nice.
But yeah, trying to get best of both worlds of better lifestyle with access to the outdoors. And
so you're in the city right now.
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn.
So so that's exposed brick you have in the background. We have a video portion of this show which comes out a week later, but it's. I mean, I'm looking at like that place looks big. That must be really expensive to have that much wall space in New York.
Why we're moving to Colorado?
Exactly.
Right. Well, so Will, we were talking about too what sets you apart from that typical drone op, and what sort of advice would you give to people that, want to, improve themselves, and take it up a notch?
Yeah. I mean, I think off the bat, what kind of helped me stand apart was my background in photography and like DP work, is that I came from a production background and knew what looks good. And so when I got into drones, I never looked at it as like just a drone. I looked at it as a tool, like essentially another camera, as you would like, you'd pick different cameras and different lenses depending on the shots that you're looking for. And obviously drones lend themselves to very specific type shots, but as the technology has gotten better, you can start using them in very different ways and as ACAMs and get up and close and personal. But I think essentially just my eye for what looks good, and then using it as a tool versus just being like, oh yeah, it's going to be an aerial shot. And I'm going to be like, all right, well, what's the lighting? What's the time of day? How close can we get? How low can we get? Can we use a foreground? So really using drones, not just as that high and wide shot, but using them as an alternate A-cam or B-cam and really crafting an image that is unique. I think advice that I would give people if they're getting into drones now, I think we can talk about this kind of on a side tangent, but it's a really interesting and difficult space now. One, it's very saturated. There's so many people out there that can go and buy a drone and say that they're a drone pilot and then get hired and get good images. But it's getting harder and harder in the space now because it's harder to get drones. DJI is kind of pulled out of the US market currently, and it's facing a potential ban, like all out ban later this year.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Going back to, your point of it being just a tool. It's one of the things that I've always talked about with everything, whether it's a GoPro or using AI or a drone. It's just another tool. And you have to think, creatively about, and conceptually, like, what is the goal of this and what do we want this to look like? Yeah. Okay, what am I going to use to achieve that? Sometimes it's a drone, sometimes from the ground, sometimes it's whatever it is. It's the same thing as like the lenses you choose, or the settings on your camera, or the time of day, or whatever it is. It's just, again, another tool in the bag.
And I think something about that is that, like, a really good skill to have with drones is knowing when not to use them.
Yeah.
And like these days, it's more of getting hired for very specific shots, and a director or DP has something in mind of what they want. And then you're collaborating with them and like helping them achieve their vision and their goal. And sometimes I'll show up to set or show up on a job and they're asking for something. And I'm like, this isn't a drone shot.
Right.
Especially for the FPV type of stuff where it's like FPV excels, where it's fast. You've got a subject there. It's really dynamic. It's really hard to cut with it, especially when you're shooting just like if you're shooting a normal commercial or a car commercial or something. The FPV can feel out of place because it's too fast or too much or like chaotic. And for a couple years, it's gotten better, but FPV was the hot new thing, and everybody was using it. Everybody wanted an FPV pilot on set, and there was a lot of instances where it just wasn't used well.
Right. Yeah.
I think being able to show up and again, thinking about it as a tool, it's like,
right,
it's only as good as the person who's actually using it and creating an image with it.
Have you seen the show Adolescence?
I haven't yet. I've heard.
Oh my God!
I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes.
I was looking it up because I couldn't think of the title, but it's got Stephen Graham in it, who's this incredible Irish actor. Maybe he's Scott. I think he's Irish.
Wow.
But man, it's all shot. It's all one shot. The whole show is done in one shot.
Yeah.
And there's some things, and this is where I thought about you.
Yeah.
Is they're having this total scene, then all of a sudden the scene backs away. Yep. And it's a drone shot. Now, did it start out as a drone shot? Was the drone sitting there doing this scene and then backing out?
And then pass off. You do that a lot with Steadicam too.
Exactly. So I think I know what you're talking about. I saw a BTS video, and it's like, it starts out, it goes through a school, it might go through a window or something, and then it goes up. And so what you do there is that essentially you have a operator who's holding the drone. So you can do it in two ways. So you can either do like a toss or a catch is what it's called. And so if you're tossing it, you have the drone, you're holding it. Sometimes you have specialized handles, and you get the shot. And then at a certain point, the drone pilot will spin up the motors and then take off. And you can do the opposite, where it's like you start high with the drone and then you come in, the operator catches it. Either you kill the motors, or you can also flip it into a mode where it's basically like the drone's not fighting you as much.
Right.
And then the props are still spinning, but they're just moving it. And then they can take off again.
It's like the clutch or something on a car.
Yes.
No, but you
still have spinning motors.
Now that I think about it, this particular scene I was thinking about, I think they showed something afterwards, like, behind the scenes thing. Yeah. And I think that's what they did. The cameraman sitting there, like you said, what'd you call it, Darren, when someone's free holding it?
Like a steady cam.
Yeah, steady cam. And then all of a sudden, it's like he gets out of the way and the drone goes underneath it, but you don't notice any shake or anything. You, as a photographer and a videographer and a drone operator, you have to. And the show is incredible. I mean, there's so many. Who is the bad guy? What's going on? And this Stephen Graham guy is incredible. I would highly recommend that. And another one that was that Birdman, but I think Birdman... Yes. That wasn't really all done in one, hour and 40.
A lot of times they hide those cuts really cleverly.
They really do. And I think it's like going down a staircase or something, and they just like stop the camera right there and they say, okay, let's do lunch,
Yeah.
Okay. So Will, jumping back to the early days of FPV, I remember watching and in person and seeing some of the time lapses that you've shared of you building your own FPVs before these were available on market, where you would take apart like a GoPro or something else and use the lens. And like even the lens itself was too heavy. So you would just use like the basic electronics and then buy these parts, from everywhere and just build your own FPV and different FPVs for different purposes. Some were like low hovering and kind of heavier. And then others that would just go from like 0 to 100 in no time flat and go way above a skyscraper. Can you talk about some of those that you built? And, again, like why you had to do it before it was available?
Yeah. So back then, that was probably in 2019, 2020 when I first got it started. For FPV, I mean, it was the early days of when people started putting GoPros on top of them and really using them again as a filmmaking tool. But these aren't the type of drones that back then you could just go and buy off the shelf for order online. You had to custom build them. So it's what you did. You would order a frame or you design it yourself sometimes, and then you'd buy all the different components. And it's actually, it seems more complicated than it is. There's not a ton of components. A flight controller, which is essentially the brain of the drone. It's a little computer. There's a ESC or electronic speed controller, which sends out the power to the different motors and they talk to each other. And then you essentially have something that connects to your radio and then a video system for the FPV, and that's it.
Okay. You made it seem really simple, but I remember testing some of these out and it's like, fuck, this thing like broke.
Well, that's the thing that I'm not as good at, is that you have to tune them. So it's like you put all these things together and then you got to like
fine tune.
There's some base thing that, yeah, you can get it up in the air, but if you do one of the 1,000 settings wrong, it'll flip over, or you have a motor spinning the wrong way. And so
you lose your feed and have no idea where it is.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of troubleshooting. So it's once you get them built, there is a lot of tuning. Some people love to tune. You can tune them in different ways where they're more slow and steady and kind of fly around like a pontoon boat, or you can have it like super twitchy on rails if you were like needing to go 100 miles per hour and chase something and turn on a dime.
I have a question about the range of these things, and this is probably a general question. I'm assuming that you have some that have more long range than others, but I always see that, it's like they say when you get close to being out of range, it automatically comes back or something like that. But it seems to me that what happens if like all it takes is like a battery being a little this or a little that, and all of a sudden it's going, dude. We'll never find it. It's like heading in the other direction.
Yeah, I've
have you lost any?
Yeah, I was counting in my head. Not as many as you would think. I've definitely lost a few. Some were my fault of just getting a little too rambunctious on the sticks and flying a little bit too far, doing too much. And but as far as the range goes, it's the biggest things you're limited to with FPV is like you've got your radio control, which is essentially the little RC controller that you are using to control the drone, and then you've got your video link through the goggles. You can use systems that basically package them together. I use separate systems. When I first started, the video signals weren't as good, but the radio system that I'm using is the same that I've been using for 5 years. It's called Crossfire. It works on a lower frequency range, so it can theoretically go for like, if you got line of sight, like 20, 30 miles.
Wow.
If you're unimpeded and if you're in a clean RF environment. I was recently on a shoot in a stadium where I was 50 feet in front of me and losing signals because there was
too much stuff going on.
Too much stuff going on. But the video systems these days, they can go for miles and miles as well. Like DJI's video system. So DJI makes all the consumer drones that people know about, but they also make wireless video systems that people put in the FPV drones. And they're like, I can get almost real time, low latency, like crystal clear, like 1080p in my eyes from like 2 miles away if I've got line of sight. If you're in a crazy environment like New York, or like there's tons of trees or a stadium, and you go behind a giant brick wall, it can cut out. But if it cuts out, then I'm flying blind. And most of these drones, you can set up like a GPS rescue on it or set it to hover. But these aren't your DJI drones that'll just like stop, come back, and land itself.
Some of these, though, too, like some of the projects, I know, I believe we've done this a couple of times where we knew that we would have a good connection, but because of where we had to fly, we had to have somebody, a spotter, maybe like a mile away. It's like, okay, the operator can't see it, but the spotter who's a mile away, it's like, you can see it then on your video feed, but you have no idea exactly where the craft is. So you have that spotter that's a ways away to kind of be your second set of eyes and just phoning back or on radio and like,
totally. All right. And that's both for safety and regulations. You legally need to have line of sight of the drone at all times, unless you've got a waiver to go beyond line of sight.
Yeah. But even around a building, I mean, how could you,
that's where it gets into kind of a gray area of like, technically, if I fly behind a tree, is there like a half millisecond where it's beyond line of sight?
Also flying over people, those gray areas too, like how high and what's safe and
and that's typically for that kind of safety thing. It's like I was on a shoot recently, that same stadium shoot where we were starting outside and then I could see the drone the entire time. Then I'm flying basically in this giant practice facility with big garage doors. And we had my visual observer and tech go down and be on a radio at those doors. So once it goes inside there, he's got eyes on it, making sure that like, as I'm going in at 30 miles per hour to those doors, nobody just randomly walks in. So it's usually when you're doing that thing where you're positioning somebody further away, it's both for safety and just regulations. Cause I can see everything. It's like, even if I can't, like, if I took the goggles off and can't see the drone, I'm still like living in it in my goggles and reacting in real time. So
what do they do for like the military when they do those drones, like where they literally, go to another country and, do so? I mean, I know that's completely different, but it must be some of the same technology. I mean,
yeah, we don't have to go too deep into that. But there is similar technology. I mean, these days, I don't know of any in the States, but like I know certain other countries, like you can put a 4G dongle on the top of your drone and then that transmits the video to satellite and then comes back to you, and you can theoretically just keep flying as long as you've got signal.
Okay, so just shifting gears a little bit, we talked about this work that you're doing, way above the ground. Will also does some fantastic work below the surface of the water and filmed sharks off of the coast of wherever. Tell me about some of those adventures that you've had and what was the most exciting or fucked up thing that you've done.
All right. I'll start with getting into it and then I'll get into the most fucked up thing underwater we've experienced. Okay. So, I mean, I've had a kind of love for the ocean since pretty early age. I learned how to scuba dive as a teenager and then started playing around with cameras and being able to combine like literally two of my favorite things into one was just like, it's my happy place. I mean, like I love being up like in drones, filming, chasing cars, doing all that. But there's something about just like being underwater with a camera, having scuba diving itself for me is very meditative and like mindful. It's like you are present. There's no noise out there. You're in this like different element. I always tell people it's, I think, the closest thing to being like an astronaut or space explorer that you can get to on Earth, because you're in a different world. You're floating. You're relying on this technology and then seeing a different world with fish and corals and everything there. And so being able to combine that with photography was just like, it's honestly, it's one of my favorite things. And so, I haven't been able to make it as much of a profession because it's even, I would say, more niche than drone work. And one, living out in Colorado there's not too much water out there to go.
Platte River. Let's go to that Platte River and see those
even though honestly, one of the most like talented underwater photographers and videographers, a good friend of mine named Bill Drum, is based in Denver, and he just travels around the world. And there's a handful of guys up in Boulder as well that make it work. But yeah, so these days I try to seek out any opportunities I can. I've got some projects coming up with PADI, the diving organization,
PADI.
Yes, that I'm really excited for. Yeah, and just like, again, it started out with GoPros. It started out with like some little thing because that's all I could afford at the time, and going and filming and using it. And now I'll take a main camera I use, is a Sony A7S4 that I'll bring down in a housing, and video lights. And
any scary moments down there with either encounters of something?
Yeah, tell us your most fucked up moments.
Yeah, your most fucked up.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Your how did I get here moment.
Yeah, are we renaming this podcast to just what's your fucked up moment?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's two that stand out. One, there's an island off the coast of Mexico. It's like a 20 to 30 hour boat ride. So you live on this boat, you go out there for a week, and it's one of the biggest congregations of great white sharks in the world. And for a couple months out of the year, they used to do boat trips. Now it's been actually closed down, so you can't get there anymore. And then it's this like, it honestly feels like something out of Jurassic Park. So it's like you're on the water for 24 hours, then all of a sudden you come out and there's just this massive island that's like shrouded in clouds, crystal clear blue water. And then as soon as you pull up, you look down and there's like 15-foot great whites circling the boat. Like, I'm not exaggerating. You show up and then 5 minutes later, a 15-foot shark is just around.
Oh my God.
And then they lower cages down in the back, and then they've also got a submerged cage, which is basically dangling on a chain 20 feet underneath the boat, that you're like down there 360 views. And so it's not like, it wasn't the most fucked up thing I ever did, but it was one of the most like just jaw-dropping, like cool, unique experiences that I've ever had, that you literally come like within inches of these massive sharks that you hear are man-eaters and everything. And you can,
are they like biting the side of the cage, like coming at you? Like,
no, they've really tried to change the regulations to make it safer for sharks. There's been some really unfortunate accidents where sharks have gotten either stuck in cages or impacted there and then ended up dying. But what they do is they've got these guys called shark wranglers that literally tie a piece of tuna or fish to a rope that at the end it's just hemp, so it's designed to, like, if they bite it, it just lacerates it off. And then they basically throw the rope off to the side of the cage and then pull it in to get the sharks interested, and then they'll do swim bys like in front.
Gotcha. So they're distracted from hitting the cage.
Yeah.
By going after something more intense.
They're getting right up in there. And there is this one shark. His name is Paul Walker. So all the sharks are ID'd and named. I'm not kidding. His name is Paul Walker.
That's awesome.
And
what do they have, name tags? Hello, I mean, how do you differentiate these sharks?
What's really cool about sharks, a lot of sharks in particular, is that their markings on their body are like a fingerprint. So for like whale sharks that have all these spots, you can take a picture and it's like a QR code essentially.
Right.
Wow. For the shark or great whites, you can tell based on the top of a great white is gray, the under is white, and that's camouflage for hunting. So when you're looking up and the sun's coming down, it just looks white. And when you're looking down and you see it, it just kind of blends into that grayish water. But the line that differentiates those two colorings on a shark, it's like a fingerprint.
Wow.
So over the years, people go out there, they take photos and they send them into this organization that IDs them. So on the boat, there's an entire flip book of every single shark.
Wow. That's amazing.
And what's really cool is that they've got personalities. And like each were like, some are more curious, some are more timid, some are like more aggressive, that look at you that you're like, I'm glad there's a cage in between us right now.
Right.
This one shark, Paul Walker. It's so funny that that's his name. I don't know who named it.
Right.
But it would literally, like clockwork, would swim up head on, just straight towards the cage, and then within like 5 to 10 feet, just veer off.
Yeah.
And then, like, kid you not, 2 minutes on the dot, it would come back each time doing a closer pass. And it's like to have this experience where you're in the water and then there's this animal that you're like, this could literally kill me in an instant.
Yeah.
Is showing curiosity, but like doesn't seem agitated, and that you're making eye contact as it goes by and having this moment with this creature that's just like, it's like, imagine you're like sitting out in the woods and a grizzly bear just walks by you, comes up this close, stares at you, and then goes off and then comes back and keeps doing that. It's like,
I don't want to imagine that. No.
Yeah, no. It's great, but it's like
and this is after 20 or 30 hours of driving out there and you're exhausted and your mind's probably all.
Well, I'm not driving. I'm sleeping on
yeah, but still, that's a brutal ride.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was honestly one of the coolest experiences I've had. I'm going back this fall to a place called Magdalena Bay, also in Mexico. So Mexico is like some of the best underwater fauna and animals and everything in the world. I don't think it's thought of as that very much, but this is this bay off of Baja that during the fall season, there's a sardine run. So it's essentially basically these bait balls of tiny little fish, millions and millions and millions of them are migrating way down low. And then you get other fish, like you'll get sailfish, you'll get marlin, dolphins, who basically bring them up to the surface. And then you get these bait balls at the surface. And then you can get whales coming in, birds coming in, sharks, dolphins, all feeding on it.
Wow.
And so you go out on these little boats, much smaller, and you're out there. It feels like you're in the elements and you're feeling the boat and getting battered by the wind. And then you see the birds coming, starting going down, and you're like, bait ball, bait ball, bait ball. And then you rev the engines, go out there, and you jump in. And you're just out in the middle of the ocean, and like dolphin might be coming by. A marlin is coming, and like with I don't know what you call it, the spear on the front. It's not the right word. Right. It's one of the fastest fish on the sea, and it's got a sword on its head. And it's coming by you at 20 miles per hour in the water, and then they keep going until they eat it all.
Yeah.
So it's like this wild experience, and like I get so wrapped up in filming that I'm looking at the screen and trying to experience this moment, and then you realize that you're inside of the bait ball, and like there's fish, and the guide's yelling at you to get out of there, and it's just one of these just like adrenaline, heart pumping, natural moments that then you come back and you're like, what was that?
Yeah.
You're just out there in the middle of the ocean, and
you have to look back at your footage to see like, okay, that's
hope it's steady and I didn't get like
right.
Have you ever felt like that your life was in danger? I mean, I know in the shark cages, you know you have some security there, but was there ever a time where you got brushed by something or felt like, holy shit, that was a close call?
Never anything like that. I've definitely had moments where I've felt very uncomfortable and afraid underwater. And then you kind of just have to rely on your training and coming back to that, being very mindful and meditative and like reminding yourself and breathing and going through. And I've had some like weird experiences where I've like not quite had a panic attack, but had just like some sense of impending doom, and you're 40 feet underwater, and then you realize you can't go anywhere because if you go to the surface, you'll get the bends, which is essentially, don't have to get into it, but it's really bad for you. And there's just been moments where it's like, you're out of your element. You're out there. You're in a different environment. You're breathing through a tube. You look up and the surface of the ocean is 60 to 90 feet above you. And I've had some moments where it's like, you really have to kind of calm yourself and come back to like, okay, is something actually wrong? Why am I feeling this? Oh, is it just like nerves are off, anxiety, whatever it is. And then coming back to just breathing and being in that space and being in that moment. And I think for me, I think because I always usually have a camera in hand, it gives me something to focus on and something I really love and kind of technical and artistic and doing that. And then, so as far as ever like almost getting bit by a shark, I've been like this close and in environments where I'm like, oh, I should like not in a cage around sharks where you start noticing them getting agitated and swimming faster.
I shouldn't put my hand out there and try to touch it.
But that's the nice thing about having a camera with a big dome on it is that
Yeah.
you can like use that as a
Yeah.
shield, and sometimes you do.
So okay, all the stuff way above the ground, below the surface. Now you've also done a lot of stuff, right in the middle. You do a lot of outdoor work where, I've heard you tell me these things like, I'm gone this weekend because I'm doing a time lapse in the middle of the desert, or I'm camping in, like sub-zero weather for the next couple of days because I'm trying to get this shot. Tell me about some of those excursions that you've gone on, whether it's up in the mountains or in the desert or anywhere in between, where it's just to get some cool photography.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think that's part of the reason why my wife and I really want to get back to Colorado is that I feel like I've been distant from that being in Brooklyn. And part of that's just career as you're working on big things. But like when I first got started, most of my work was just going out and doing landscape photography or adventure photography. And it was just me going out in the middle of the woods or on top of a mountain or wherever it was. And it stemmed from my love of nature and love of camping and being out there, and then wanting to create just really unique, beautiful images of these places that I got to experience, and then being able to come back and share them with everybody else. And so I used to do a lot more of just like finding some location or like doing research. I think this right here is one of my favorite.
Describe to the
try to get it without a glare in it. So this is I'm forgetting
Milky Way.
It's the Milky Way. It's in New Hampshire. It's in the White Mountains. That's myself sitting there and my brother and a friend. And this was like we were up in New Hampshire doing I'll do that later. I'll figure that out. I'll just block with my head. But yeah, and it was this thing that like I knew the Milky Way was going to be lined up. It was a new moon. There's certain apps that you can use that you can tell where it's going to be based on certain geographic structures. So I knew that there was basically this cliffside in the White Mountains, knew in the middle of August that the Milky Way at midnight is going to be perfectly aligned over it. Saw that the weather was good, and then like hit up my brother and friend, being like, "Hey, do you want to do something crazy tomorrow night? Go hike up 4 miles and then camp out and try to get this single photograph where the stars."
Well, who took the picture? Because you just said you were on top of the mountain, but the picture was, did you have some sort of a delay? Or I mean, how did you
it was like a 30-second timer. So I set it up on a tripod and then hit it because I think it was too far for our remote to go. And then I literally, it's a super wide, it's like a 14 millimeter. So it looks much further than it is. And then I sprinted back, carefully sat on the side of this cliffside and not like fall off. Hoped that it worked, and then went back, reviewed it, changed the angle a little bit, and then
ran back up.
And those moments for me, I think it's just like we live in such a beautiful and fleeting world of moments and natural spaces, and being able to both be in them and not be by a camera and experience them, but then be able to create these memories, these visual memories that tie to that place or time or those people that I was with, has always been really special to me and something I've always really loved doing.
Yeah, and it's not easy capturing stars and Milky Way and those astro features. It's very complicated, and you have to also have the right kind of equipment to be able to do that. And then some of those time lapses you've done too, where you're capturing similar things, but with, motion aspects of it, just absolutely amazing, just stunning. And before I forget, can you tell people where to go to see some of your work? If you have some websites or galleries that you want to share, or Insta, or
So the place that I most recent work, I can't say that I post as frequently as I would like to, but on Instagram or TikTok at Will Strath, so WILLSTRATH. My website is willstrathmann.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, awesome. We'll make sure we post a link to that too.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely fantastic stuff. Now, Will, before we go, I know we've been talking for a while and I don't want to take up too much of your time.
This is great. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. But if you have time, this is a big shift here. By the way, Tom, for the video component listener, Tom just pulled up Will's, is it his Instagram?
Yeah.
It's in Ireland.
Showing
that is such a cool video
shot off the cliffs of Ireland where he's just
Clams
right over
Casino.
The water. It's just absolutely stunning work. It's just incredible. Okay, so you can just tell me, no, I can't do this. I can't go into it. This may be a part 2 thing. We worked together years ago, and you got a phone call that set off a chain of events where Will was part of let me rephrase that. Will was one of the victims of a scam, and it was such a mind fuck. And I was there to witness kind of the beginning and parts of the middle and the end of it, and all the way to the point where it ended up being picked up by, I believe, a New York Times reporter, a story done on it, and then ultimately made into part of a documentary series.
Talked about most fucked up moments. This one definitely takes the cake. Without going into it too deeply, it was one of the most intricate and complicated and like outrageous things you could ever imagine.
Well, I think we're going to divide this up into 2 parts and have just kind of like a bonus episode, a part 2, where we include that. All right. Thanks again, Will. Love you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you.
Tune in next week for part 2, The Hollywood Con Queen. Tom and D.
2 middle-aged idiots.
This podcast is produced by 224 Media with voice and audio support by Fry on the Fly Productions.